Oof. So last time we finished up 1500 and headed on to 16. I want to try to finish this game this week. Preferably within 2 streams, like do an entire hour. Today's stream, an entire hour in the next stream. And we'll be able to move on to Ekenfell and eventually Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. Eventually. But yeah, for now, let's just focus on this. So let me just take a look at the time stamps over here. So let's see, last time was, oh right, so everything kind of culminated with that bomb going off. And lots of crazy stuff was going on. So, who are we even going to start? I love that Minorikawa now is all covered in in soot because he was right there at the car bomb. So we found out that the car bomb seemed to be a lure to try to get Hitomi there. Inside the car was a body which was discovered to be Tanaka, who's the Osawa's assistant slash inside man for the kidnappers, who seemed to be involved in all this and then disappeared and then is now dead. Maria still doesn't have her memory back, but she's getting really close to stuff. Achi and Hitomi were at the scene also, and I think Kano was too for a little bit. So yeah, crazy stuff is going on. Let's start with Minorikawa. Minorikawa needed to get back to the editing office right away. Yeah, he's still trying to get that, technically by 1600 he should have been done with it, but he's still trying to get that article done. But now he thinks that he has a scoop that can get the debt collectors to back off of them for a little while because of being on the scene here. But despite the urgency, he barely stumbled along. Also, tell me if my voice is too loud or the game is too quiet. He was swaying on his feet, only half aware of where he was even going. No, this is all some sick joke. He just couldn't accept that Tiamo's dead. Let a lifeless sigh, a cynical smile crept onto his face. The man always did insist on having his own way, but killing himself? Back when he still, apparently Tayama died somewhere. Back when he's still a novice reporter, Minorikawa had written a piece about a middle school girl who committed suicide. The school had made a statement denying that bullying had been a factor, and so most of the media reported that she had suffered a nervous breakdown over entrance exams. A period of mental illness manifesting as a panic disorder, stress-induced anxiety, or the like. The term is commonly used to refer to serious health issues such as schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, manic depression, as well as the buildup of more minor stresses as part of everyday life. Because it's so broadly and vaguely defined, it's generically avoided in psychiatric contexts. But something about the case had kept nagging at him. Let me get close to the mic, sorry. Had her death really been a suicide? The more people are interviewed about the incident, the more his doubts grew. The city news editor, however, would not allow him to conduct a follow-up investigation, and the reason why was simple. This is the sort of thing that happened every day. They couldn't waste time on a case that was already on the books. It was more important for a reporter to find news stories than to squander time engrossed in a case that was old news. Minorikawa understood the editor's decision well enough, but that didn't mean he had to like it. He'd been sulking up on the roof, slowly nursing a cigarette, when the paper's local news copy editor, Toyama, happened to drop by. Copy editor, at a newspaper, an employee who evaluates the quality of suitability of reporters' copy and coverage, effectively the boss of a group of reporters. However, the copy editor typically works under a section editor who has the final say about what makes the page, a middle management position caught between upstart reporters and an angry section chief. Did they say no to the follow-up interviews? Toyama asked. About that girl's suicide? The name of the girl who killed herself was Chiharu Fuyutsuki. After reading her diary, Minorikawa became convinced it wasn't an ordinary suicide. 6 years from now, Minorikawa will run into a certain teacher, and the investigation into the student's death will be reopened. But that's another story for another time. What? Is that a different game that they made? Yeah. Minorikawa expelled a plume of his smoke along with his sigh. Nothing tasted quite as bad as a cigarette when he was down in the dumps. So what are you gonna do? I'm not gonna do anything, Norikawa said. Editor told me no. Editor said not to? You sound like a child. The rebuff made Minorikawa's temper flare. There are other interviews to do. I want to follow up on this, but there isn't any time. Ooh, you dumbass! Toyama hauled off and him right across the face. What happened to I write what I feel in my heart? That's the one thing I refuse to back down on. What happened to the guy who used to bitch at me like that? Toyama's words hit the mark with painful precision. The interviews aren't over until you have what you need. No, you refuse to let them be over. You go after the truth no matter what anyone tells you. Isn't that what being a journalist is all about? Minorikawa scowled in chagrin. The man was exactly right. Until you have what you need. Those words have stuck with Minorikawa ever since. In fact, he'd quit the paper to become a freelancer because he couldn't do the job the way he wanted to while trapped in that hierarchy. Now he wondered, what if Toyama hadn't killed himself, but had instead been the victim of a terrorist attack? But after considering the idea for a moment, he thought bitterly, so what? The reason and the details hardly mattered at this point. What matters is that Toyama was dead. Norikawa sat down listlessly and stared up at the sky. The blank swath of blue made him feel all the more worn out. Just what had all the days running around been for? He felt so empty. So hollowed out by loss. All his motivation had drained away. He had no idea what he should do next. Hey, Minoru Minorikawa, what should you do? He tried to listen to his inner voice. You've forgotten your past, you need to get back up. Stand up right now, you just need to forge ahead. I have a feeling that doesn't really matter one way or the other which one we choose. Yeah, that was his only option, really. He couldn't just let things end like this. And he still didn't have what he needed for his articles, so... Minorikawa took a deep breath, ready to get back at his feet. Before he could, however, a young man stumbled across his path, taking a nasty fall on the pavement. Oh, damn, that hurts! The youngster scrambled back to his feet and turned to Minorikawa with a snarl. What are you looking at, pal? The young man clutched a piece of timber like a club. There was a nasty gleam in his eyes. I'm not looking at anything, Minorikawa sighed. I just happened to be looking in your direction. Shut your yap! Apologize, bitch! Now! The punk raised his cudgel. I have not seen many people use cudgel in a contemporary context, let me tell you. What for? You tripped me, man. Ain't you gonna apologize for that? The kid had stumbled all on his own, but was probably too embarrassed to admit that. Guess he gotta vent his anger at someone. Listen, kid, Minorikawa said, it's not my fault you're such a klutz. You know, like the pedal in a car that's got a manual transmission? Oh, no, that's a clutch. Okay, so like the lumps of earth or clay, those are clods, right? Alright, so then you're talking about the sort of social get-together for coffee and conversation? Huh? Oh, right, that's a clutch. Is it when you try to fix something using stuff that isn't meant for that purpose? That's a clutch? Okay. Alright, game. The hell you just say to me? You got a death wish, pal? With a murderous glare, the punk advanced on him, brandishing his weapon. Hey, Minorikawa said. Is it fun hitting people thing? Alright, I'm sorry, or bring it on. Yeah, is it fun hitting people with that thing? The corner of the punk's mouth curled up. Oh yeah, real fun. Only a dumbass beats people with their bare hands. You just wind up hurting your fists. If you're gonna enjoy some violence, you gotta have yourself a weapon. Uh-huh, I see. In that case, maybe get a rest with that stick, yeah? Huh? What for? Punk scowled in irritation. Don't get me wrong, Minorikawa said. I'm just saying that there have to be better weapons than that.
And Potato.
Jimmy! Welcome to the stream, Potato! Thank you very much for stopping by. I hope you're doing well, friend. And thank you for resubscribing for 16 months. Goodness gracious. Something that could take a man down in a single blow. The kid stopped to consider Minorikawa's words for a moment. I getcha. Yeah, you might be right about that. And I think I have just the thing. Hello, Zach. How are you doing? May as well go with my usual. He tossed away the piece of wood on the side of the road. Don't you go anywhere till I get back, got it? Yeah, sure thing. Minarkawa watched as the punk headed back the way he'd come. Man, he murmured, what a dumbass. Looking around, he spotted a taxi parked close by. Oh my god, it's Kimizuka! How? You need a ride, sir? Kimizuka asked, all point of politeness as he opened the back door. This guy is just following us around everywhere. If you're heading to that publishing office again, I can get you there in 10 minutes. Kimizuka's driving was as smooth as always, as he wove his way skillfully through a series of back streets. There was some big explosion earlier, he explained. The main roads are all still gridlocked. Doing well, just wrapped a bunch of hanging out for now, debating where I want to start new drawing or hop back to Xenoblade 3 and start drawing other later. It's difficult. It's difficult to find time to draw when you got Xenoblade going on. Yeah, Minoru muttered. I was there when it happened. Oh wow, really? I'm glad to see you're not hurt then. Still, what a terrible thing, that minivan. I hear someone was inside when it exploded. Not sure if you were aware. Yeah, I'm aware. Oh, and nothing gets past a reporter like you, I see. Kimizuka flashed Minoru an approving smile through the rearview mirror. How much have you heard then? Rumor has it the person who died was a middle-aged man. Oh, huh. We taxi drivers tend to hear quite a bit ourselves. Kimizuka chuckled, but Minoru cast his eyes down forlornly. Okay, so Minoru thinks that the guy in the van was Toyama, but it was Tanaka. Two very different people. So we're gonna be at least happy when we get back to the office, I guess. You look tired, sir. Yeah, I guess so. His reply is barely audible. Suddenly someone rushed out into the street right in front of the cab. Hey, it's Achi. Look out! Oh no! There was a heavy thunk as the taxi crashed into the pedestrian. Achi! I love that company name. Screeching to a halt, Kimizuka and Minoru jumped out of the vehicle to find a young man splayed out on the street. Hey, the taxi driver called. You alright? Oh my god, is he out cold? The fallen pedestrian was practically still a kid, and he wasn't moving. Kimizuka hunkered down, jostled his shoulder, then expression stiffened in alarm. Minoru checked the young man's pulse, but couldn't detect any heartbeat. Oh no, Kimizuka said. Tears began to well up in his eyes. Minoru turned to him in surprise. You knew him? I did. Kimizuka cradled the young man in his arms. I'm sorry, but you'll have to find yourself another taxi, he said. I'm going to turn myself into the police. Looking down at the boy's unmoving form, Minoru felt a pang of guilt. No, he said, I'm the one who's been asking you to drive around so recklessly all day. This is on me too. But I'll go with you to the cops. The two men decided to head to the station together to surrender themselves. There probably wouldn't be time to work on writing articles while they're being interrogated, but that was just how it'd have to be. This is the right thing to do. Minoru just had to keep telling himself that, knowing it was the truth. I have a feeling this is a bad ending and we gotta stop Achi from running out into this intersection. Oh no! I can't believe we killed Achi. I'm a terrible person. Minorukawa's day ended in disaster when the taxi he was riding hit a young man who ran out into the street. Why'd the kid rush out into the intersection like that? The answer lies in Achi's story. Alright, so I guess I know where we're going next. Stakes are getting high. The stakes are getting high. Achi, come here. I need to prevent you from dying. Again. Achi could hear ambulance and police sirens wailing on the main road. He looked down at Hitomi slumped on a park bench beside him. You're sure you're not hurt? He asked quietly, offering her a bottle of water. I'm okay. Hitomi took a sip from the bottle. Thanks. I think I managed to calm down some. Some of the color had finally returned to her face. So, Achi began hesitantly. Inside that minivan, Maria wasn't in there. There was relief in her voice, but also a note of pathos. I got a look in through the windshield. There was a man laid out in the back seat, but nobody else. The dark cloud lifted from Achi's face. So it wasn't your sister? No, I didn't see his face. Just that he was wearing a business suit. Achi felt tension ebbing from his body. That's good then, that it wasn't her. I'd been worried. It was a shame about the poor devil who had been killed, though. He kind of deserved it. He had answers for us, which I'm upset about, but he kind of deserved it. Who was it, and why had he been there? He's the one that helped Maria get kidnapped, so yeah. So I guess now we're at a leads. Said Tomi murmured. She hung her head. We could try the surveillance center again for now, Achi said. It'll probably give us better odds of finding your sister than just walking around. I guess you're right. Shall we then? Hold on. Achi has a sudden flash of inspiration. My house is a lot closer from here. Maybe I should ask my dad if we can check the cameras from home. You can do that? We have the same system at our house. I'm sure my dad will let us use them. That's convenient. The two got up and head for Endo Electronics. Achi decided to let his father know they were coming. He turned on his phone as they walked along. Oh no, don't turn on your phone again, you idiot. He had it off for a while, so first he checked his voicemail. That's how they're tracking you. How have you not figured that out? There was one message. Wondering who might have called, he played it back. Is this Achi Endo's personal cell phone? This is Dr. Seiki from Shibuya Central Hospital. Seiichi Saiki, heart specialist and Suzune's attending physician. It's his sister. Preeminent surgeon who had successfully performed the Batista procedure, wherein the left ventricle is reconstructed after a third of it has been removed. Achi's expression stiffened. He pressed the phone closer to his ear. There's been a sudden change in Suzune's condition. I tried calling her home as well, but got no answer. Oh no. Achi felt the edges of his vision growing dim. As her brother, it would be good if you can come to the hospital as soon as possible. It's... Achi? Hitomi's voice was full of concern. Sorry, I just gotta make a call here. Fingers trembling, Achi dialed his house. Phone rang several times before switching over to the answering machine. Damn it! Where the hell are you, Dad? What's wrong? Hitomi asked. It's Suzune. It sounds like things have gotten pretty bad. Well, then we need to get to the hospital right away, Hitomi said. She sounded as anxious as Achi was. We can't go yet. Achi shook his head quietly. First, we have to save your sister. Hitomi bristled angrily at that. What are you talking about? She grabbed Achi by the arm and shook him. Right now, you need to be thinking about your sister. I can't. I made a promise to Suzune, a promise to help people and see things through to the end when something important is on the line. I struggled to get the words out. If I break that promise, then I really am no good to her. But Hitomi didn't look like she was going to back down. Oi! Get back here! Threatening shout rung out from nearby. Achi looked around startled and saw a boy about high school age bolting out from behind a building on a side street. Several slightly older young men were hot on his heels. Achi knew their faces all too well. They were all members of SOS. They caught their quarry just before he could make it out onto the main road. Gotcha, newbie. So the kid they were after must have been a member too. Let me go. We'll let you go, all right, after you pay up. One of the young men snatched the boy by the collar and shoved him against the wall of a nearby building. Ow! The boy's face scrunched up. What are you talking about? Playing dumb, huh? Interjected one of the onlookers. We told you that members all have to pay monthly dues, yeah? The privilege of getting to call yourself SOS don't come free after all. Achi felt his blood boil. SOS was trying to pull shakedown on this new kid under the guise of calling it dues. Slang for extortion, a full-fledged crime. Naturally, the direct shakedown, give me all your money, punk, is quite unpleasant, but more roundabout ways of being shaken down can still leave a bad taste in one's mouth. Someone who's surrounded on the street by 8 people in pompadours who said, begging your pardon, but could you please hand over your money, might suffer no physical harm, but would still be the victim of a shakedown. It would have been unthinkable for them to do something like this back when Achi was running the show. Hey, he barked, let the kid go. He marched toward the group. Say what now? They turned to look, their faces immediately going pale. Oh, hey Achi. Let him go. Achi focused his glare on the fellow holding the kid until he released his grip. You guys always go around doing stuff like this? None of the gang members answered. They merely turned their gazes glumly to the ground. Hey, Achi turned to the young boy. Since when have they been doing this? But of course he realized there's no way the newbie would be able to tell him. Never mind, you can go. Achi gestured toward the main road. The boy was quick to run off. Achi waited until the boy was gone before turning back to the others. Does Susumu know you're going around collecting dues like this? He asked. Man, we don't gotta tell you that, one of them muttered. Not since you deserted. What'd you just say? Achi leaned in close, getting right in the guy's face. He was met with a defiant sneer. This ain't the old SOS anymore. Not the old SOS? Achi thought back to the other gang members he'd run into earlier with a malicious gleam in his eyes. That guy. Pretty sure he said his name was Kiryu? Back when Achi had been with SOS, he never let a guy like that get away with acting all high and mighty. Now it seemed like all these young fellas are ready to follow suit, eager to take him down a peg. Your old news, pal. Ain't your business to tell us how to do things. Achi felt a confusing flood of anger and sadness that he couldn't quite control. I'm not messing around here, you guys. He grabbed the nearest punk by the collar and hefted him up in the air. Then someone shouted from behind him. Hey, what are you doing? Achi put the guy down and turned around to see Susumu standing there. Mind telling me just what's going on here, Achi? Susumu flashed his underlings a sharp glare. They immediately took to their heels. Okay, so I think racing after that means that I'm gonna get hit by a car, so let's talk to Susumu instead. Just what the hell is going on with SOS? Achi needs to talk to Susumu. I asked what was going on here. There was a threatening note in Suzumu's voice. That's what I want to know. What the hell's happened to SOS, man? Suzumu's face twisted with displeasure. You're an outsider now. That's none of your business. I don't give a damn it's my business or not. When I left you in charge of SOS, You shut your damn mouth, Susumu roared. Yeah, that's right. You left me in charge. So don't you dare give me any lip now about how I run things. Sudden ferocity left Achi at a loss for words. You're not the one busting your ass out here, I am! Susumu stalked toward Achi, his face red with emotion. I've had to work so hard to keep things going with you gone. Do you have any idea what it's been like? Do you know what I had to put myself through to keep SOS together? There was nothing Achi could say to that. He just kept his mouth shut and let Susumu talk. You were gone. I thought maybe I could do things like you did. All at once, Susumu seemed to deflate a little. He hung his head, hiding his face. And if I couldn't be like you, then... Hey man, I get it, and I'm sorry. But Susumu kept his face averted. Please, he muttered. Stay out of our business. Then he turned his heel and headed off without looking back. Achi watched him leave, feeling a painful sting. Achi? Hitomi asked after Susumu was gone, are you sure you're okay leaving things like this? Achi shrugged heavily. Susumu said he's doing what he can. It's not my place to butt in. He turned his back on Hitomi. He still needed a moment. Achi, you're being unreasonable. About what? He felt like he'd been wounded to his very core, and he wasn't sure about what to do about it. You want people to help who are in trouble, right? Hitomi asked quietly. You want to help people who are in trouble. Yeah, I guess. Achi's voice was glum. Well, I'm in a whole lot of trouble right now. Yeah, I know that. No, Achi, you don't. Hitomi's tone was clipped and firm. Please, go to your sister. What are you talking about? That doesn't matter now. Yes, it does. Hitomi's shout stopped him in his tracks. Achi, right now the thing I'm having most trouble with is that you won't go to the hospital. Don't you get it? How can I possibly be happy with you if you have to sacrifice your own sister to do it? With you helping me if you have to sacrifice your sister. Achi couldn't answer that, and he knew it. Please, go to the hospital. I'm asking you to, and I'm definitely someone in trouble, so it doesn't count as breaking your promise, right? I appreciate that, Achi said softly. And I'll remember it when this is all done. Achi. I'm sorry, I've made up my mind. We can go see Suzune after we rescued your sister. Hitomi looked like she had more to say, but Achi grabbed her by her hand and dragged her off toward Endo Electronics. Okay, so I chose to not go to the hospital. And let's see if that was the correct choice or not. As they turned a corner, Achi caught sight of a group of foreign men heading in their direction from the other side of the street because you turned your stupid phone on. The men saw them too and immediately broke into a run toward them. Damn it, how are there still more people chasing after us? Achi spun and started to sprint in the other direction. Maybe these new guys were associates of the foreign thugs who'd fought the man with the cane? Achi mulled that over as they ran, getting farther and farther from Dogenzaka. The crooks are clearly pretty familiar with the layout of Shibuya. They weren't easy to lose. And now you get run over. No, we have Hitomi with us. We don't get run over. I'm pretty sure that was earlier. Achi and Hitomi finally lost sight of them somewhere around Nanpeidai. Finally stopping once they got to Sakuragaoka. Are you alright? Achi panted. Yeah, I think so. Well, guess who wound up coming here anyway? Hitomi raised an eyebrow in confusion. Suzune's hospital. Oh, okay, so it doesn't matter one way or the other. It's just over there. In that case, can you please just go and see her? She fixed him with a look of earnest pleading, and despite his misgivings, Achi nodded. Is my tea cool enough yet? Yes. Earl Grey tea. A very good flavor. Should have sweetened it a tiny bit more. It's still good though. Sorry. Shibuya Central Hospital is one of the foremost general hospitals in Japan, outfitted with top-notch medical facilities and staffed by highly skilled personnel. Individuals like Suzune with rare blood types were sent to the hospital from far and wide because of its cutting-edge hematology center. The hospital division that deals with blood, its goal is to provide high-end care to patients with blood disorders, including blood screenings, treatments, transfusions, the management and supply of blood products, and other related services. Achi asked Hitomi to stay in the waiting area while he headed on to the hospital proper. From the visitor's entrance, he passed by the nurse's station, then entered the cardiovascular medicine section and walked along a row of examination rooms. The cardiovascular system includes the heart as well as various blood vessels that circulate blood throughout the body. Cardiovascular medicine deals with heart and blood issues such as angina, heart attacks, heart failure, irregular pulse, and the like. Angina, not angina. That's like the beat of your heart is off, I think. Something like that. He walked by the first room as quietly as possible, catching sight of a mother and daughter sitting together in chairs in the hallway. The mother was crying softly. Oh, Takia, he's only 15, she murmured under her breath. The name Takia didn't ring a bell. It was the only 15 that got a reaction out of Achi. Only 15. He couldn't imagine anything good coming after that. To be cruelly taken away when one was still so young. Achi could feel the woman's pain as deeply as if it were his own. Yay, we're learning! Hooray for science class. When he reached Suzune's room, Dr. Saeki, the attending physician, explained her condition. The doctor did his best to keep his explanation simple, but Achi was too worked up to process much of what he said. He did manage to wrap his head around a few things. At around 10 o'clock that morning, Suzune had had a seizure. For a while it had been touch and go, but finally her condition had stabilized. However, since she hadn't regained consciousness yet, she wasn't allowed any visitors. That was the gist as far as Achi could tell. What's your father doing today? He still hasn't come by, Dr. Seiki said. Achi wasn't sure what to tell him. It was certainly odd. There was no way his father wouldn't have rushed right to the hospital if he heard Suzune had taken a turn for the worse. I'll give you a call when she's woken up. For now, you can head home for the day. Alright. Please, keep a close eye on her, Doctor. Somberly, Achi went to find Hitomi in the waiting area. Outpatient reception had closed for the day, leaving the hospital quiet. His footsteps echoed softly in the corridors. Then, as he walked along, a peculiar sound drew his attention. Please don't tell me it's the sound of a cane. It had come from over by the base of a nearby stairwell. Achi took a peek around the corner. Oh! The sight greeted him and nearly made him gasp aloud. Is that Kanan and Stanley? Yeah, Kanan. In the dim light up ahead, he saw Kanan. She had some white guy pressed against the wall, a knife to his throat. What the heck are they doing in the hospital? Achi quickly yanked his head back out of view. Could it be? Was this the man Kanan said she was after? I think she's working for him. Achi had to resist the urge to go charging out there. Some amateur heading in half-cocked might be more of a liability to Kanan than any sort of help. He heard her mutter something to the man in English. We know nothing about Alfred's background, nationality, sex, age. Achi could barely make out the words since it was all in English. He had no idea what they meant. But we do know that whoever they are, they have connections to Langley. Slang for the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, headquartered in Langley, Virginia. Similar to referring to the Japanese government as Nagatacho, the CIA has other nicknames including the Company, the Agency, the Second Government, the Invisible Government, and the Coup Makers. Not many of those are complimentary nicknames. Achi peeked out again very cautiously in time to see the man raise an eyebrow at Kanan's words. Yeah, it's Stanley. Interesting. That doesn't mean you need to threaten me at knife point, though. He flashed her a thin smile. It does, actually, because I happen to know that you're a CIA agent. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that Stanley... Kumakers is a bit on the nose, yeah. I can't believe that Stanley has been a CIA agent this whole time. Who could have seen this coming? Oh my gosh. What a shock. Biggest twist of the game. Technically known as officers, the CIA refers to its own spies as agents. Someone in charge of directing agents is called a case officer. Case officers are stationed at embassies across the world in the public eyes of diplomats, soldiers, and the like. Ooh. Ooh! No sooner were Kanan's words out than the man grabbed her arm and tried to hurl her against the wall. Just before her head connected, though, she jackknifed her upper body forward and planted both feet against the wall and kicked off with tremendous force. Ooh! She used her momentum to launch herself forward, regaining her position with her knife against the man's throat. But during the brief opening, the man had managed to draw a gun from inside his jacket. Now the barrel was pressed right against Kanan's heart. Achi swallowed the lump in his throat. One second. Who are you texting that for? I'm sorry, I have like a family. I have a family text, and sometimes some of the family members just like post things completely out of context. Anyway, sorry. How about we call truce? Kanan said softly. She withdrew her knife. Yeah, sounds like you and me are both after the same thing. So she's not with the CIA. The man likewise lowered his gun. With a faint smile, Kanan turned her back on him and vanished down the adjacent stairwell. Achi had no idea what had just happened. They stopped fighting though, so this guy probably wasn't Kanan's mastermind after all. If only Achi spoke a little English, he might have been able to follow their conversation. He found himself wishing he'd taken school more seriously. You have a family? I'm sorry, I ruined the illusion. I know people get upset when they find out that internet personalities have families. Please don't unfollow me. He looked again, he saw the man too had disappeared. Hitomi stood up from her chair as Achi hurried into the waiting area. "How's Suzune?" she asked. "For now, she's not in any immediate danger," they said. "That's good to hear." "But more importantly, Kanan was here just now." "What? Why?" "I'm not sure. I'm not smart enough to figure that out." Achi slumped his shoulders. "Huh? What? I'm not quite sure what you mean." "Exactly. I couldn't understand anything she was saying. Hell, he couldn't even figure out how to get through to Hitomi." May I have a moment?" A voice spoke unexpectedly from behind Achi. "Hey, buddy." His breath caught in his throat as he turned around. Standing there was a man Kanan had been struggling with. What's up?" Achi asked. He tried to sound as nonchalant as possible. The man wasn't looking at Achi. "You're Hitomi Osawa, is that right?" Yes." "Hey!" Achi snapped. "Keep your distance." He stepped protectively in front of Hitomi. "This guy, he's not what he looks like." Achi clenched his fists and adopted a defensive posture. "Huh? Huh?" Hitomi seemed panicked. Achi said, "This might be the person Kanan was on. I know who he is, but he's not our friend." "Yeah, let's not let him know that we know Kanan." The man calmly reached into his jacket pocket. Fearing he might be about to draw his gun, Achi braced for action. "Hey, Jack Stanley." "My name is Jack Stanley. I'm a security assistant officer with the U.S. Embassy." Yeah?" "Alright, wait a minute. His signature just says John Hancock. If you don't know, so John Hancock was one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence, but like he's the one with the big signature there. But it's it means that your signature, when someone asks for your signature, they ask for your John Hancock. So he just signed it John Hancock. That's the most CIA, like, absolutely shadiest junk that a foreigner would absolutely not understand at all, and he be able to get away with. But yeah, so in the United States, when someone wants your signature, they say, "Can I have your John Hancock?" That's the explanation. I'm just going to try to read this. "All authorities in the United States of America are requested to afford the bearer every assistance and protection of which this person may something in performing the work of mission." It is a good signature, yes. But that's amazing. That's amazing. Achi held back his punch as the man held out his ID card. Diplomats are issued diplomatic passports and diplomatic ID cards by their home governments. In Costa Rica, we just ask for autographs. I mean, yeah, that works too. I really want to know why. It's because he has like the large name on the Declaration of Independence, but I wonder like how long ago that phrase started. Like, did people ask for your John Hancock in the early 1800s also, or is that like a 1900s thing when it became there was something that someone started it? I love discovering like the etymology of phrases like that, because it's usually something at least vaguely interesting, or like a book that started it, let's say. I know that there's a lot of phrases in America that came from what's his name, Charles Dickens. Like he did a lot of parlance. But yeah, anyway, Japan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs also issues its own form of diplomatic identification cards. The CIA provides such identification to its operatives working overseas to help maintain their false identities. Embassy? What does someone from the U.S. Embassy want with me? Hitomi asked timidly. "You're being targeted by a dangerous criminal. I'm here to take you into protective custody." "Custody?" Custody? Achi's temper flared. "Buzz off, pal. We're busy here." "Busy searching for Maria Osawa?" Stanley asked. Achi and Hitomi exchanged glances. "I know the full details of the trouble you currently find yourselves in. Well, alright then, Achi said. Then you should know we don't have time to get taken into custody. I'm afraid you don't understand the situation you're dealing with. Those are really nice waiting room chairs. It kind of sucks that you have to stare at that wall, but still. We're up against a dangerous international criminal here. Taking reckless action is only going to put her life in danger. Don't be a fool. There's no time to play the knight in shining armor. Hey! Achi was infuriated, but he couldn't think of a comeback. After all, it was true that Hitomi had run into danger time and time again while she was with him. But I'm already safe, Hitomi insisted. I'm only here right now because Achi has been protecting me. She eyed Stanley sharply. I've got Achi with me. I don't need your protection. Achi felt a surge of pride that practically brought tears to his eyes. If Hitomi would have let him, he would have given her an enormous hug. Stanley grimaced in resignation. Alright. In that case, how about I join your search for Maria? I can help keep you safe that way instead. I don't know. Hitomi grabbed hold of Achi's sleeve. The Stanley fellow didn't have the most trustworthy face, Achi thought, but he realized that he might be biased after being chased around by foreigners all day. Yeah. After all, if this guy really were after Hitomi, he'd probably have already made a show of force. Not only did he have a gun on him, he was sufficiently skilled in martial arts to hold his own against Kanan. He'd have no trouble taking down a single unarmed opponent like Achi. Hitomi, I get the impression the Stanley guy is not our enemy right now. Hitomi gave a slight nod. Alright. I trust your judgment on this, Achi. Man, Stanley joining up on this group. I didn't see that coming. Now then, what's the plan from here? Stanley asked. Not wandering aimlessly around town, I hope. There was a trace of snideness in his voice. You can just keep your mouth shut, Achi replied. We can wander around town all day if we feel like it. To complete this snarky game, he thought to himself. Poor Hitomi looked distressed. Very well, if that's what you want, I can stay quiet. But first I need to inform the police that I have Miss Osawa in my custody. Stanley's a party member. Ba, 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 ba. Stanley's a monk, actually. He's great. You know, fighting class. But he has a gun. He's a gun monk. Wait, hold on, Hitomi blurted. That isn't a good idea. Stanley inclined his head. Why's that? Well, since you already seem to know most of the story, Hitomi quickly explained the kidnappers' threat and described the search for the minivan. Stanley remained quiet, listening with obvious interest. I see, he said when she'd finished. Still, when that minivan exploded, didn't that make your promise to the kidnappers a moot point? Hitomi nodded. I suppose it did, didn't it? Let me ask you one more question. One more thing. Do either of you know a detective by the name of Tateno? No. We haven't run into any detectives. Yeah, exactly. The only folks we seem to run into are guys who are after Hitomi. I see. A grim expression crossed Stanley's face. Right. I'm going to get in touch with the investigation task force. I'll have them contact your parents for you. Would you mind speaking with them so they can confirm it's really you? Sure, all right, Hitomi said. Stanley got on his wireless and described the current circumstances to the police. So I know that Stanley has his own... Mr. Endo, hold on! So I know that Stanley has his own agenda here. Very obviously, he's the CIA, which means that he's only in it for his own side. But I don't think that he's our enemy. I think that he's just a creep. But I think in the end, he's gonna gonna have, you know, some stake in this that's not out to get us. But it could be that that's gonna change, you know, at the very end. So we'll have to see. But I think it's okay. He seems to at least like be cooperating with the police, but that's because it serves his own purpose currently. I don't know. Suddenly, Dr. Saiki appeared, running down the hallway. There's something I forgot to tell you regarding your father. Oh? Achi got a sinking feeling. I got a call from him yesterday afternoon, and he asked me something rather odd. Huh? Preparations for a transplant? Oh no, don't do it! I'm sorry, I'm not entirely sure I understand what you're asking. Don't do it! 1 second. Oh, that's neat, okay. Saiki clutched the receiver. Daisuke Endo's brooding tone was more than a little disturbing. No, it's alright, Endo said. This is all just difficult to talk about, Doctor. Please, forget I said anything. There's just one important thing I want to let you know. Yes? There's gonna be a brain-dead woman coming your way at probably around 9 o'clock this evening, I expect. Her blood type is Bombay. Bombay was the extremely rare blood type that Endo's daughter Suzune possessed. Any transplant donor for Suzune would also need to have the Bombay blood type. Since she had the same blood type as Suzune, the transplant itself isn't an issue, Endo continued. The only thing I'm concerned about is whether the procedure could be done within the limited time window. And I hate to trouble you, but I just called because I think it would be best to prepare for surgery as soon as possible. The more Seiki heard, the more disturbed he grew. It felt like he was listening to a man go on about some strange delusion. Doctor, please just take good care of Suzune. With that, Endo hung up. That's very concerning. Achi kept quiet as he listened to Dr. Seiki tell his story. Okay, I thought that Daisuke was getting ready to make himself into the transplant patient, but this is slightly sketchier. You can't just procure brain-dead people with extremely rare blood type. Of course, that was all yesterday. I still haven't heard anything about a brain-dead girl turning up. After all, only God would know when someone would wind up in a state of brain death. But still, there was just something very strange about what your father said. It was as if he was certain that someone was going to wind up brain dead, or... Just stop right there, Achi exclaimed. Stanley and Tomi turned in surprise. They were still in the middle of their wireless call to the police. Don't get me wrong, the doctor said hastily. I'm not trying to imply your father would hurt anyone. What I'm worried about is your father's mental state and... No! Achi interrupted him, interrupting again. That's not it! I was thinking the 15-year-old that was mentioned earlier. Maybe his own words from earlier spun within his head. So long as we have these cameras, this guy has nowhere to run. Yeah, that's what we were thinking about Yanagashita, security cameras. I'm sure this is the place. Oh, we're putting 2 and 2 together and we're not getting fish. Man with the cane, he'd been on the phone with someone. That didn't mean anything. It's just a coincidence. It couldn't be true. No. No. The man with the cane isn't working for our dad. I think Hitomi has the Bombay blood type, right? That was like part of the... No way. That was it. Anyone from downtown committee could have used the camera's monitoring room. Oh, okay. So it's not our dad though, right? Yeah, no one's been by a check today, right? Nothing wrong with a little nap, yeah? Right? We're just putting 2 and 2 together that's not related to the father, right? No dice. No one from downtown had been by the surveillance room today. It couldn't be. It couldn't. Oh, that's why our dad's not answering, because you could access it from our house. I began to tremble. Is something the matter? Hitomi asked. Achi, you're pale as a ghost. Achi gazed beseechingly back into her face. With just one simple question, he could clear this whole thing up. Please tell me I'm overthinking this. No! He prayed inwardly before asking. Hitomi? It's gonna ask what her blood type is. Would you mind telling me your blood type? Huh? Why do you ask? Please, just tell me. I have sort of a weird blood type, Hitomi said. Oh no! It's called Bombay. No! Ah! The last piece of the puzzle fell into place. There's no longer any room for doubt. Achi found himself facing a sad and painful truth. So our dad has been stalking us all day, sending cane guy? Ah! Why? Why? With an anguished scream, Achi punched the wall as hard as he could. But his fist still didn't hurt as much as his heart. Oh my god! Dad, why? How'd he find out that that Hitomi Osawa had Bombay? Well, that's it. That's the end of our of this already. That was really fast. You're telling me we're gonna have to wait till next stream to see the conclusion to that? Ugh.